Time has come once again to speak as co-creators in Magic Do. I'm Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Gaffin-Stone, and we are your guides as you journey into the heart of the primordial.
Welcome to Season 7, Episode 16, The State of a Magic Address.
Aha! Okay.
This is what I'm getting. Like when you asked, oh, do you want to record? This is what kind of started coming to my mind was we're going to kind of throw out what's happening magically in the world. Like, so I'll start because I was already given the message, right? So I just came off like months and months and months of like daily spell casting, sometimes two, three, four. I think I maxed out at 6 spells in a day. It was exhausting. And
That's
it
a
kind of
lot.
started to seem, it almost kind of seemed like just endless. Just like every day I get up, okay, do a spell, take a break, do another spell, take a break, do some more spells. And a lot of it was opening portals, releasing, downloads for whoever needed it, charging people's practices, opening even especially lately for specific targeted people. I didn't know all of them. Michaela has benefited from some of them, was in some of them. I think she was actually in the last one too.
Mhm.
So, and now I'm like, I have a break now. So I'll sum up basically the spell work. The spell work has been opening communication. It's been, well, I mean, last year, right? I think it was when I said it, right? The void I was given by Baba Yaga is now divided amongst a bunch of people for their practice. A lot of the angel I work with, whose whole job is to do this renaissance of primordial magic, they've doled out a lot of, for lack of a better expression, angelic fire. Like, there's been a lot of opportunities created, a lot of new trails opened up, portals open for people, things unlocked, even in people they may not even be aware yet. I have no idea what works for them because I have no idea who most of them are. But it's been very specific lately and very targeted. So at least on that part of the state of the magic address is that if you're feeling ready to stand up and be a part of it, it's there. Everything's been laid out for you. All you got to do is connect back to yourself. It's there.
Mhm. Yep. That actually fits in perfectly with a couple of conversations I
Mm,
recorded earlier today, particularly the second one. So you just echoed something she said. So if the listener has signed up for the summit, it's Ankara Rose, her section. You'll hear something that's very reminiscent of what Danielle just said, which is, you know, coming into back to yourself, being integrated with
right.
who you're here to be, and operating from there. And I would say with being called to do magic, I have another word that fits in there now, I think, compelled.
Yes.
Compelled, because that's kind of what's going on in my world right now. It's just I can't not, and it's uh it's to the point that it's very hard for me to focus on daily work tasks that simply aren't interesting, and that they're just I don't have the focus or the energy for them because I got other stuff to do, and
Right.
the other stuff is all in the magical aspect. Um, I got a lot of work to do and I'm feeling fired up about it. And it's very hard to sort of sit back and say, okay, mundane stuff now, and wow,
Yes.
I can only do it for a short space of time and then I have to go off and do something different and come back. Um, but it's like I'm being pulled, dragged out of that mundane work world and more into the magical stuff. And I'm very willing to go. Like I really am. So if somebody could just send me a windfall of money, please, so that I don't have to earn it, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. Thanks.
And, I'm glad you brought it up like that because I think there's going to be a lot of people exactly feeling that way exactly.
Both
Knowing
either.
multiple languages, you lose your grammar sometimes. But anyway,
I forget to English.
yeah, I forget to English good. But yeah, it's that feeling, you'll know because you're probably feeling that also right now. Like you're seeing things and you're like, oh my God, I can't look back on where I was. Like that seems like such a, I'll word it this way, but you can word however you like. Like that seems like such a sad place to be. Everything here is like, illuminated and it's energetic and there's life and then all that's like sad, gray and you know.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. And if the listener's experiencing something like that, I invite you to look at it with
Mm,
a lens of fondness for the process that you had to go through to get to where you are now.
yes.
Because, in fact, that was also in the call this morning. So you
Mm,
need to look at Anchor Rose when she comes up in the
yes.
summit. You need to look at that one. But that was also there where sometimes you have to go through a period of forgetting who you are and what you're here to do
Yes.
so that you can reach a depth, if you will, that sparks the growth again. And now you can really remember who you are and what you came to do from this
Right.
new perspective that you have because you went through that whole process, that sad space, etc. So it's part of the process. And if you think about it, that's mirrored in what's going on in society right now, the crumbling of the patriarchal system.
Hmm.
And anybody that's feeling a little prodded by that and like, she's anti-men. No, no, no. It's the system. The hierarchical structure was no more helpful for men than it has been for women. Men are also victims of it. It's just they're less aware quite often because they're told they're not.
Mm,
Whereas women are really clear on it, right? Like it's generally speaking more obvious. But men are told, no, 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 you're the boss, you have the power,
mm.
but only so long as somebody else is pulling your strings. So really not, right? So the patriarchal
Yes.
system that I refer to frequently is literally the structure we have in society globally that is based on giving everything to the few at the top and
Yes.
screwing over everybody else, right? Regardless of gender.
Hmm.
So patriarchal system is the system. It's not the gender. I just want to make that clear in case
Well,
somebody's feeling like she's anti-man.
but it's a good clarification because it's true, right? Because the word has changed in definition because initially, right, patriarchy was a legal definition. Everything goes through the mail. Inheritances and all
Right.
that kind of stuff goes through the mail. But in most Western societies, that doesn't happen anymore. You don't even have to take your husband's name or anything like that. So that as a thing, but it's got renamed. And there are those who push it as all men are to blame. It becomes kind of a catch all. And I'm only bringing it up for the same reason you brought it up. It's like,
Yeah,
that's not how it's being used here.
and that's always going to be a thing, right? Where
Right.
somebody is they misunderstand what
Hmm.
the problem is.
Right.
And so, you get a little bit of understanding, like this system is screwing you over.
Right.
Okay, fuck the system. And now I'm after the people that did it, and it's men because it's patriarchy,
Right.
and they follow this very rapid fire logic that doesn't have time to actually be examined. And then whoosh, therefore,
Right.
all men are bad. And when you look at the news and you look at the number of sexual assaults and what
Hmm.
have you that go unreported because nobody believes the women,
Right.
um, the sort of misogynistic comments that get highlighted a lot
Hmm.
in the news, that kind of feeds that attitude, right? Of,
Yes.
well, look, I'd rather meet the bear than the man in the woods, right? Because at least you know
Yeah.
what a bear's going to do.
Right.
And fair enough. So there's that. And then on the male side, there's a whole lot of, well, women are all men haters and women do this and women do that. So there's a lot of mistaken Um, well, there's a lot of mistakes on the understanding of what we're talking about
Right.
here because it's a very rapid leap full of assumptions from step A to step M. And it's like, no, 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 no. That's not where we were going. I've said before about logic being this
Mm.
wonderful path that has one step in front of the
Mm.
other and it makes sense and everything, but it doesn't go where you want it to go. That
No.
is an example of that. It's logical, but it's not
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, right? Because patriarchy, the legal system, still exists in the world, even if it doesn't live in most Western countries. It still lives in the world. It's still a
And there are
thing.
matriarchal systems too.
Right.
Some places have matriarchal systems. The
Right.
Jewish religion is matrilineal, one should say.
Yeah.
Um, in that
Well, because yeah.
it's passed on through the woman, not the
Mm.
man.
Right. I mean, even in like in a lot of indigenous cultures in Canada, it's the woman. A divorce is as simple as taking the guy's stuff and putting it out of the house because the house belongs to the woman. So if you're kicked out of the house, you're kicked out of the relationship. That's it. So
Okay.
like they exist, even if it's not in the coded into legality, whatever. It still like lives in cultures. But what I was going to get at is just for that is the muddying of language for the sake of sowing discord. I had said it,
Mm,
the idea of the word sex and gender being separated, but yet I have yet to listen to someone who has a master's degree in gender studies not play with those words to get what they want out of the conversation and not stick to the vocabulary they agreed to.
hmm.
So it's a thing going on, and it's a thing that's always went on. Words are allowed to drift into a certain definition to serve a purpose, and then pulled back when there's pushback, and saying no, that's not what that word means. Because the minute people go, okay, well, if it's how you're going to use it, well, here's the counter. Oh no, no, it doesn't mean that, right? Like
Right.
it's a thing still happening, and it's a thing that happens, and it's just something to be aware of for people who are listening, because a lot of times it's easy to make someone feel targeted, right?
Hmm.
Even me, when I hear the word patriarch, I usually roll my eyes. I'm like, whatever, okay, what does it mean to you? Like, like the legal system is gone. Don't worry about it. Now, if you want to change it, that's fine, but make sure that's what you're talking about is defined, right? Because me, I'm fine with language evolving. I like it. I make up words of my own sometimes. It's so I love that, but it's got to be consistent. You can't have it mean one thing one day and another thing the other day because people joining the conversation will be like, what the hell are we talking about now?
Ideally, but yeah, that's the manipulation of language, isn't it?
Right.
So, and that adds to the confusion where you've got someone leaping from assumption A to, this
Mm.
conclusion that actually, no, that doesn't follow. But,
Yeah.
so you're always going to have that. I mean, if you ask someone, particularly a man, but not only,
Right.
if you say, what is a feminist?
Mm.
You're going to get a whole load of really interesting responses to that. And it's usually, oh, woman wants, they might say equal pay. They want to be treated like a man.
Yeah.
I've heard that one a lot. Well, no, that's not at all what it means. That's not my understanding of feminism anyway. Feminism, a guy can be a feminist.
Right.
And in fact, it's ideal if they are, because what that means then is we're looking at equity.
Mm.
It's not I'm not the same as a man. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is that
Right.
we're not the same. But so equal is kind of a misnomer. It's a
Right.
misused word and it's not applicable because we're not the same. It's like saying an apple is equal to an orange.
Right.
Okay, they're both fruit, but, not
Yeah.
necessarily much else in common, right? So equal and equitable, these are different. And equitable is what we really need, where, you have the things that you have, we have the things that
Right.
we have, and all of that is equally valued.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Because that's the when you don't have the bad actors trying to maintain discord, that is the core of it. That was always the intention of it.
Hmm.
Now, not everyone knew how to go about it, right?
Hmm.
There was a kind of a big push at one point to get men out of feminism because then it wouldn't be truly earned by women if men were there helping. Even though in the beginning, the first meeting was a guy donated the space, and then guys were jumping on board going, okay, what can we do? And then it
Hmm.
was like, well, okay, but we need this for women. to do it for women so women can have that victory. And it's like, okay, well, you're excluding the people you're trying to reach out to, but whatever. Like things evolve. Not everyone understands how to move in the same line as everyone else, but the core of it was always just a respect.
Mhm.
And that's
And
how every
and
movement works. The core of it is trying to get a respect.
and fair valuation, right?
Right.
Because it still happens that women get less pay
Yeah.
than men for the same job, which is bizarre because if your brain is working on the same level as my brain
Mm.
and vice versa, then why would one get paid more than the other? Like that doesn't make sense. And it still happens. It's still in place. So, we've moved forward and not. So there's a lot of confusion, I think, in conversations about what are we talking about here. So I wanted to clarify that for the sake of the
Yes.
podcast. I'm not a man hater by any means. I have two amazing sons. I have a husband who
Mm.
I love very much, and that is the extent of my family. That's what I have. So
Right.
my family is entirely male. My animals are almost all female, but that's
Mm.
that's beside the point. Like it just all that to
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
it's not a it's not where I'm coming from. It's not the space.
Right. So that is also the state of the magic because it's about your practice is your own practice and no one should be telling you how to practice.
Right.
It's according that same respect to someone's path, just like you would for feminism or any other social political movement that's looking for equity. It's that all the practices are what they need to be. You need what you need, and it should be treated with the same respect as anyone else's needs are.
And when you're being asked to other a group of
Mm-hmm.
people, and today, for the sake of variety, I'm going to go with trans people,
Right.
because that's currently that group of people are under
Mm-hmm.
severe attack in the US right now. So here's a perspective I would like to offer on this. Whenever there's a group of people who are being attacked and targeted, that is generally implying or indicating that that group have something powerful about them. There's something very special that they bring, and the powers that be are trying to suppress it.
Right.
So when you look at the trans community, or you look at people with autism, for example, who also come under attack quite often, and sometimes in rather subtle ways, like, oh, is there a cure for autism? Well, screw you, it's not a disease. Like, what do you mean? Is there a cure for it?
Right.
Cure what? That this person thinks differently? So,
Mm.
the language is very important
Right.
again
It is.
here. Very important. But that neurodivergency is important for the progress of the planet because these are the people who think differently. They
Right.
see things from a new perspective. They see outside of the box differently from how the people who built the damn box in the first place see, right?
Right.
So we need that input. So when you see trans people being targeted,
Mm.
why? What's to be afraid of? Because make no mistake, this is a fear-based attack.
Right. Well, I have a saying. I haven't used it recently, but there's the expression, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But I
Right,
always say animosity is the sincerest form of flattery because when someone hates you, they're giving power to you. They think something of you. Like when people say, "Oh, you think you're better than me?" No, but you think I'm better than you, or you wouldn't have said that.
right. You are living in their head rent free,
Right.
right? If somebody loves you, then they think of you and they carry you in their
Right.
heart. If
Right.
someone hates you, you've got their mind,
That's right.
right? Like you are in their head, big time, and they can't get you out, and they don't even know why. Like they're hating for obviously an inadequate reason because there is no good reason for hate,
Right.
right? And when you're hating on a group of people, right now the witch hunt is for trans people
Mm.
and for brown people in the
Right.
US, right? Specifically Spanish speaking, which is interesting.
Yes.
Um, and that really is bizarre because there's other groups that you could look at and say, well, don't you get a little more trouble from this group over here? And yet you're not targeting them. Why is that?
Well, that's the big one. That is a very big thing.
Isn't
Like,
it?
hmm like it is like it's so. Oh, I have to rub my temples. That's how,
Uh-huh.
that's how frustrating and annoying and whatever other word you want to put to that is, because it's like it's almost like you're not trying to solve the solution. You're just trying to get PR to look like you're solving a problem.
I don't know that they're honestly even trying that. But
Right.
what I find curious is the groups of people they're targeting are not only not harmful, but they're generally very helpful. So,
Yes.
especially when you're looking at Spanish-speaking people
Mm,
in the US, those are typically the people who do the jobs that your Caucasian Americans don't want to do. So, why would you give them a hard time? Like that is utterly bizarre. I haven't quite figured out what the thing is behind that. But you can bet that when a group is being
mm,
targeted, there is a reason for that that is not the one that you're being told. That's the number one thing to
right.
know. And women right now are being heavily targeted in the US. The
Yes.
bodily autonomy is something that has to be fought for. Like even at a really basic level, it's bizarre.
It
You've got
is.
you've got men who are generally the older white guys, but not only, who are advocating that sexual assault's just fine and don't make a fuss
Mm,
about it, or that, a bit of rape here and there is
mm.
good fun. I'm sorry, but what the ever loving
Yeah.
what? Did a woman raise you? Like, how did we get to this?
Well, that's
How is that something anybody thinks, let alone articulates, right? So what is
mm.
the underlying thing here? What's the bigger deal? And I would say fear of women is definitely a big feature.
Well, I had postulated this was years ago, and I thought I was going to get beat down for it, but I actually didn't end up getting beat down for it. But I had proposed the idea, like if you look at, and again, this is no hate towards anyone. It was just a hypothesis because I was trying to put together certain things that I didn't understand. But I thought, okay, so if you look at what modern Western thought and philosophy is based on, it's usually a lot of it taken from the Greeks. And the Greeks, for whether fair or not, were categorized as being gay. Like if you're on top, you're not gay, but if you're bottom, you're gay. And a lot of figures who were very popular came out as like preferring the companionship of a young man or whatever the idea
Hmm.
is. So and then of
Plato, for
course,
example.
was that
Plato, for
yes,
example.
and then you have also on the woman's side, you have the idea, right? The word lesbian comes from the island of Lesbos, which was the poet. Is their name Sappho's? Yeah. So that's why you also get that type of
Suffolk.
poetry and eroticism is called sapphic from that,
Uh-huh.
right? So what you have is basically two groups who have no use for each other trying to coexist. Like straight people at least have sexual desire for each other and a certain built-in, desire to be with each other. But when you're two groups who have no desire for each other and you have only frustration with each other, it's going to lead to some, animosity at some point. That was my hypothesis. And no, and a lot of people just kind of went, huh,
Assuming that they were frustrated with each other, which
yes,
I don't know that they would need to be, but I just find it interesting that people are still being divided by
right,
targeting groups.
yeah,
It's the oldest trick in the book and it's still working, which is bloody irritating. But, they just pick on who's our biggest threat now.
right,
Also, and I think this might be where the trans community comes
mm,
in, who is small but visible
right,
that we can attack and they got no defense, right? And
yep,
we could get a bunch of other people behind us by making some absolutely heinous accusations that are wildly inaccurate and have no basis in anything, but nobody's going to disprove you because how can you? The whole
right,
back restroom argument, right? Like
mm,
who can use which facility? Ludicrous. If you go into a women's bathroom, they're all stalls. We don't have urinals.
Yeah,
They're all stalls. So if somebody's going into a stall, do you actually care what they have in their pants? Like, does
right.
it matter? Unless you're going in there to check it out, you don't even know. So
Well, and
what's your
that's the thing,
problem?
right? And I can give a personal experience on this matter because I had a drinking buddy who was a trans male at one point.
Okay.
And I had gone into the washroom at the bar and they were there and they looked all shocked. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, I know you and I know your behavior and I know you're genuine, you know? Like, when someone's genuinely trans, it's like, this is how you are. You're going to behave accordingly. So there's nothing to be afraid of unless you specifically have an issue. But you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing inherent in being trans that makes you a danger being in the whatever washroom that we
Exactly.
present in. And it, like, and
Exactly.
I
I
knew it
think,
because when I walked in, I was like, oh yeah, okay, never mind. And I walked in, I was like, what about my business? And
mhm. But
and
the bigger risk is the people who think that they have a right to go in and inspect what people have in their pants.
right,
Those are the people I'm afraid of. Those are the people that have the
yeah,
problems. Damn, like they are twisted, but they're also in charge of things right now. And that is also a concern. So, we live in very tipped up times. But the thing when systems crumble,
mm-hmm,
which is what is happening to the patriarchal hierarchy system now, you grab on tight,
right,
right? Like Ankara Rose said this morning, if you're hanging on to somebody at the edge of a cliff, as their fingers start to slip, you grab tighter, right? That's
mm,
exactly when you hold tightest, is when
yeah,
you're losing it.
right,
So that's what we're experiencing right now. So we're in that stage, that phase where we got to do the things we got to do. And we keep saying this, we got to do the magical practice.
right,
But I think it's moving from a calling to do it to literally a compulsion. You have no alternative but to
right,
jump in and do the things you came here to do. You got to get out of your own way so you can find out what that is
yes,
and then just do it. Just do it. And it doesn't matter what other people are saying because have you heard people lately? Like, have you listened to the crap?
yeah,
Because that's what we've just been talking about for the last 10 minutes is the
right,
utter crap that people say. And just because they believe it doesn't mean it's true. Right? That's
yeah,
really important to remember. Somebody can be utterly convicted of their beliefs, and that means not one damn thing.
that's right.
Nothing at all.
And it means especially nothing to you who are jumping into your magical practice because their
Right?
path is not your path.
It is not. It is not. In fact, it was funny. I was working with a kiddo yesterday.
Mm,
Um, he was on the spectrum and a young kid, and he looked at me on the screen and he said, "Do you celebrate Christmas?" And I said, "No, no, I don't." And he was quite shocked. But the birth of baby
mm,
Jesus? And I said, "No, really not." And he did not know what to do with that information because that was a new thing to him.
mm,
And he was kind of mind blown. And I think he's still working on it right now as to what that means. He didn't get as far as to ask
yeah,
me what I do,
right,
but that might be another question.
yeah. Could always told
But
them, but I accept gifts if you want to send some.
Uh, I just found it funny though that but this is what I've been told, so it must be true, right? And it starts really
Yeah,
young.
yeah. Well, it does, right? It takes a long time to step out of what you were taught when you were young,
Yeah, it does.
and for some people, it stays with them for the rest of their lives.
Well, it's scary to do, right?
Yeah,
So, excuse me, thinking of a certain nephew of yours who is a little concerned
yeah,
about not having a rule book,
right.
not having a set of rules to abide by. Well, that's only because that's what he's used to
Hmm.
and what he's been told is necessary.
Right.
But if you think about it, it's the people who need the rule book in order to behave. Those are the people that are problematic. I mean, if you have to have an external source telling you not to do bad things, eek, right? So
Right.
the rule book isn't as helpful as it might seem. But when you grow up with that being the norm, it's awfully hard to let go of it.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of also a question for the listeners. If anyone knows about what I'm about to talk about, let me know. Send me information, whatever. I have recently heard that there's been a whole change of rules in Jehovah Witnesses for Jehovah Witnesses.
Oh,
Like a
really?
big shakeup. Yeah, there was a lawsuit, and now they're like to protect themselves, they've had to make a big shakeup.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that like now you can have a blood transfusion? Is it
Well,
something
now
like
you can
that?
grow a beard if you're a guy. Relaxing the dress code for when you're at church. When you shun someone, when is it okay to start talking to them again? Because you're not supposed to, apparently. But now, after a certain amount of time, you can talk to them. And like, there's all these rules being changed. It sounds like I just, because, right, my feed is full with all kinds of stuff. A couple of videos started coming in about there's a big shakeup happening, and especially
Oh,
like boomer and older Jehovah Witnesses are like in for a rough time because they put their heart, sweat, and tears into everything. They've neglected
uh-huh.
family, they've rejected people, and now they're like, wait, what? It's okay now? I can talk to them? You told me to get
Right,
rid of them, and now I can talk to them?
right.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned them, I'm
Mm,
going to go there. I find it terribly sad that a religion would
mm,
break apart families based on whether or not you stay within the fold, right? Like, I
mm-hmm.
just think any religion that does that or that holds that as a threat over you, if you take a step back and look at it objectively, there is no loving kindness in that space.
No.
That is us first and never mind the family. Why would it be us first? Well, who do you pay your money to?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're right down to bottom line again. It's like the oldest version of a mega church, if you will.
Mm,
Give us your money and then we'll save you.
yeah.
Except if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you're not guaranteed to be saved either. There's only a
Yeah.
certain number that get saved.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You're now playing roulette with your soul and
Well,
shunning people because they call bullshit.
yep.
Wow. That's a hell of a religion.
Yeah. It was like, the first time I heard about it was about 30 years ago. Someone I'd worked with was a Jehovah Witness. And she had been saying, oh, it's unfortunate, but like one of her cousins had done something and, now they're being shunned. And I was like, squeeze me, end of the 20th century, going into the 21st century, and you're telling me people are shunning people because they
Uh-huh.
disagree religiously?
Yeah. No, it's I know a woman who was Jehovah's Witness her entire
Mm,
life, and she got married according to their
mm,
requirements to the person that somebody chose for her kind of thing. And he ended up being abusive and physically violent.
right.
And she eventually got it together to leave the guy. She was sick of getting beaten
Mm,
up all the time. Well, the church elders informed her that she couldn't leave him.
mm,
She had to stay in the marriage and just, deal with it and do her best not to upset him, kind of thing. And she said, "No, I'm not going to keep doing that." And so she was shunned by the
mm,
entire community that she'd grown up in. And even her kids weren't allowed to talk to her anymore.
mm,
So she's been suffering numerous mental health crises and so on ever since. But she had to leave in order to save herself because she was
yeah.
just getting beaten all the time. Like, again, where is the loving kindness in any of that?
Well,
And
that's the thing.
if you're worshiping a God
Mm,
that requests no loving kindness
mhm,
in your dealings with others, then which of us, the witches
mm,
or the religious people,
mm,
who are following devil-like practices
mm.
at this point?
Yeah.
I don't think it's us.
Well, once again, if you follow the Gnostics, then what's being worshipped is the demiurge, which is essentially the evil and not the good. So
Mm,
depends what route of Christianity you're taking, but there is a
precisely.
branch that views God as the evil and not the good.
Well, if you read your Old Testament,
Yeah.
that seems fair, right? How many people were wiped out again because I don't like the way you did that, or you didn't say the right thing at the right
Mm,
time? Here, let me wipe out an entire group of people. It's like, I don't know. Can we question this now? Can we like, look at that and say maybe this isn't
Well, and
a
that's
path
it,
to
right?
follow?
Yeah, and that's it, right? Because if you like, that's where you know the stories aren't meant to be on a spiritual perspective, and they're purely for control because it makes no sense to punish people that drastically to solve a problem unless
Not
you're
at all.
absolutely looking at a well, I can't even like no, we're because you know
No,
what, and
honestly,
because we're
there's
not
no
in that
sense.
period, I'm not even going to try to even find an example for it because really what we need is going forward. Like old stories have to fall aside and new stories have to come in. Like even I've lately been back into doing more creative projects, writing and that kind of
Oh,
thing.
good.
And part of it, which keeps sitting in the back of my mind, is well, you know what? New stories. Instead of repeating the old stories, make new ones.
Hmm.
So I may or may not, I haven't really figured it out yet. Depends on what goes on next. Is the maybe even make a fictional story to act like a guideline to do magic, kind of like the
Absolutely.
podcast, but like in a fictional format to point
Yeah.
out, to just draw out points. Because fiction
Well,
has a wonderful way of letting us step out of ourselves and making us open for ideas.
storytelling
Yeah.
is very powerful. And I just had a download for you, so
Mm.
I'll throw it at you and you
All
use it
right.
or not. But when you write your fiction, offer a choose your own ending and do
Ah,
some different ending possibilities so that it's not static.
uh, which is handy because that's usually where I get stuck in my stories. Because usually I'll get to what I want to say, and then I'll have no
Uh-huh.
juice left. And it's like, but I need a conclusion. It's like, well, do you? You said what you needed to
Well,
say. You developed what you needed to develop. Do you need an ending?
you can offer the option for the person to write their own ending,
Right.
and you can give a couple of alternative endings. So there are
Yes.
options, right? If it
Right.
goes this, if you say yes here, then you go that way. If you say
Yeah.
no, you go that way. It's like I think what we miss from so many stories, particularly when we're supposed to actually decide how to live based on those
Right.
stories, which is essentially what we do, right, as a
Yeah.
society. Where are the options? Where are
Yes.
the options, man? We should have options.
We should because we're not the same. We have different. We
We're going
just to be
different
blunt,
places. We're
we
doing
have
different
different
things.
functions in life. We do different things. We have different
Uh-huh.
perspectives. We need to bring together to the whole. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're all at different ages, stages,
Hmm.
directions. We're not all here to do exactly the same thing.
Right.
So why would we all have exactly the same story to follow in exactly the same way?
Right.
The only way that benefits anybody is if they're funneling you into a factory-like system to feed the machine. And
Mm.
I am immediately reminded of the video that goes with Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Oh yes.
Isn't it? That's
Hmm.
exactly it. They called it, what was that, 1978, 79? Something. It was that long ago when they made The Wall.
Yeah.
And that video, if you look at it, that pretty much sums up what's happening.
Yeah.
It was happening then, it's happening now. It's been happening for a long time. But now it's really hard to unsee it. Not everybody
Yeah.
could see it before, and I think it's becoming unavoidable.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because you and I grew up around in a period of time where all that kind of stuff was like, okay, this, see, yeah, it's another brick in the wall. Lose that because you can't progress. And then somewhere, somehow, we got to the late 90s and then it's all wrong.
Uh-huh.
You know, all that, letting people be who they are, letting people do what they need to do, accepting someone as, okay, that's you, that's your version of you, that's good, that's awesome. All that open mindedness at some point in the 2000s, especially the 2010s, became you're bigoted. How is it bigoted for me to let you be who you are?
Yeah, we got a lot of confusion happening. Another thing that leaps to mind
Right.
actually is DEI,
Yeah.
diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, Canada does it wrong, and the US does it wrong, but they do it wrong differently. So, Let me break that one down.
We
In
do.
the in the US, DEI is seen as giving favor to women and people of color, even when they haven't earned the
Mm,
position, right?
right,
Just based on how they present.
right.
Then, and so there's a lot of pushback on DEI. I'm not convinced that that's actually how it ever operated here, but that's what's being used as the stick to
Yeah.
beat it with. Now, in Canada, it has been used as a weapon.
Yes.
So basically, in Canada, if you are Caucasian straight male and young, you are in the worst possible demographic. You are going to get shafted. And honestly, if you happen to be Anglophone as well, you're in big trouble because you
Well,
don't tick anybody's boxes,
right.
right? Especially, it may be different in Quebec, but in Ontario, for example, if you don't have a francophone background, that's a strike against you because it goes under DEI. And if you're not gay, if you're not,
Well, yeah, the
and there's
big
certain
problem. Yeah.
religions. If you're Muslim,
Yeah.
it's okay. If you're Jewish, no, that's not
Mm,
okay. If you're Ukrainian, yes, you can tick the
mm,
box. If you're Russian, no, you're in trouble. So Canada
mm.
breaks it down to the acceptable groups
Yes.
and the not acceptable groups. So DEI becomes a weapon of segregation in exactly the way it was not intended to be. And
Well, yeah.
it's not used to level the playing field,
Right.
and that's a problem. And it so both countries royally screwed up a really good idea.
Hmm. Yes. Canada has that. Like I said, the first election I voted in, I voted NDP, and then they brought out their proposals and stuff what they were going to do, and I was like, nope,
Hmm.
not again. And that was one of them. It's like the okay, now you can't apply for a job if you're male, white, and anglophone in the province. I'm like, what the hell got them upset? To the point of a lot of minority groups came out and said, like, no, we never asked for this. This is not something we're asking for. Do not do
But
this.
it is what happens in practice.
Yeah.
That is currently
No,
happening
but
in
that's what I
practice.
mean, right? Somewhere in the governance of Canada, this idea has shown up.
Hmm.
And I don't know where it comes from because it doesn't seem to be what anyone is asking for.
Well, no, but it doesn't serve a purpose. You're now putting that group into, bizarrely, a minority,
Yeah.
right? Because they're the group that can't get hired now. And
But,
it's
yeah.
just it is the most bizarre setup. But Canada also has this protectionist approach to jobs that they're crying out for people for. And it has not changed in many
And
years. When I first went
yeah.
to Canada, I arrived as a nurse
Hmm.
and I thought, I'll sit my Canadian nurses exam and, and get to
Right.
work. It took the College of Nurses 12 months to approve me to sit the exam. And I had run a medical clinic by this point as a nurse
Yeah.
practitioner. I'd been working for quite some time as a nurse in three different countries. And the final nonsense was when they asked me for evidence of my registration in Bangladesh.
Nah.
And I phoned them up and blasted somebody on the other end of the phone because at the time, and probably still, there was no registration in Bangladesh. So they hadn't done their homework.
Yes. Well, and
And
that's
when
the yes.
one last piece to that, though, was
Okay,
when
go
they
ahead.
finally said I could sit my exam, I was offered January or
Mm,
June, Ottawa or Toronto.
mm.
So I said, June, Ottawa. Tell me what they sent me.
Toronto in January.
Yep.
Yeah, Canada
And
is
I just had a premature baby, so I was not going to
right.
Toronto in January. But and yet they were desperate for nurses.
Yeah. Well, it was the same thing. Like I had did my education in IT because Canada needed IT people, and they were giving grants and all kinds of stuff. And all these people graduated, and then suddenly, the federal government was like, oh, there's not enough people. We have to bring people in from India. And I don't care if you're bringing people from India, but you're not paying the Canadians who did this whole thing that you told them to do. You know, like Canada likes the veneer of looking worldly and metropolitan,
Yes.
but it does not quite put in the efforts to do it.
It's misplaced
Yeah.
royally, and the we accept all people except you, you, and you. You
Well,
guys can
that's
go away, but everybody else, and it's very selective, and people don't realize that. Now,
yeah.
I think the reason this subject came up
Mm,
was because it's the facade of what it's
yes,
supposed to be, and
versus
then the
what it is.
reality
Yes.
of how it actually works and doesn't work, right? Because
Yeah.
DEI in Canada does not work. It's a system that needs to be abused in order to survive. For example, if you happen to be Caucasian and male, you're going to have to say you're gay, right? Like if you want a
Yeah.
job, you're going to have to say you're gay. Whereas if you say that in the US, you're likely to get swiped up by ICE and locked up, right?
Yeah.
So what a difference a border makes.
And it's
Uh,
interesting because in Canada doing that whole thing, you know, like so as French Canadian, I'm aware of this kind of things, is that we're supposed to have 100% services federally in French and in English.
yep.
We don't have that. So it's like 60% or something like that at this point. Or last I heard about it. Last time I bothered to check because it was like we're only at 60%. And this was like this millennium. It's not like, I'm talking about 1960 or 1970 or something. This is like 2010 or something like that. And it's like the services are only offered 60% in French. Like learning French is free in Canada. So the language itself is not a barrier. It's free to have it. Now, whether culturally you live in a place that does the language, that's different. I can't,
You know what?
those
It's
forces, I
not
can't.
free in Canada. It's not free in Canada for Anglophones who are from Canada. You can come in from another country and it's free for you. Or if you are from a Francophone background and
Right,
therefore going to an immersion school type deal, yes. But there's a lot of programs out there that
right.
say, oh, learn French, it's free. Oh, no, 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 you're Canadian. You should know French. There's an assumption that you know it already. And so those programs are not available for
Well,
Anglophones who want to learn French.
what I was going to say though, like if you're born in Canada, all the schools have to teach French in third grade to whatever up till you get into high school. Just like when you go to a French school, starting in grade three, you start learning English when you're in a Francophone school. So there is for someone who's lived in Canada, you have it. I could imagine that if you're coming to Canada, it's different. But like, there's been like, because most of the people I know who speak, who try to speak French to me are always like, well, I learned it in school, but when you live in an English household, you don't repeat it. I've had a few friends though who went to the school I went to who didn't have English speaking parents, or sorry, who didn't have French speaking parents, and they learned French that way. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Canada is very bad, is more interested in its appearance than it is its actual what it's
Yes.
doing. And every
Yes.
time I see a commercial about Canada, every time I hear the speeches, I'm all like, I live here, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
I live in this country. Okay, granted, I'm not glued to any one party, so I can look at what either side has to say and go, oh, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. I can see why you don't like that party, and I can see why you don't like that party. That makes sense to me. And you know what? Yeah, I got it. Like, if you're glued to a party, maybe you're stuck. But, like, I live here and
Yeah.
I see the I see the behavior, and it's like, no, this doesn't work for me as far as
And for
that
any
goes.
listener who's wondering how come she's going after Canada, I've lived in Canada a lot of times over the years and experienced well, you would get that from the nursing story, but I've experienced the joys of being on the wrong side of the DEI.
Mm.
And, being a woman isn't coverage enough if you happen to be foreign and English. Oh, that's like, man, you came out of the worst group.
Mm.
That's
But
problematic.
I'm gonna
But
offer
it's more about the facade,
yes,
right?
but and the reason why I had mentioned the thing about although right, you need to have all these qualifications to get a job in Canada, especially with the government. Well, with the government, anyways. but yet the government is not. That's why I mentioned it's only 60% of services are offered in French because the government is not doing their back end of it. Like they're not making all the services available in French. So why do you need people to do it in French if you're not even offering it in French? And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm getting at. There's the um, it's the again, it's the facade of trying to be a certain thing, but not doing the work to
Yeah.
match the facade. So even like, because I've listened to a lot of people complain and say, as French Canadian, you hear it. Well, why do French people get this? Well, I mean, we kind of do, but we also kind of don't because it still has to be available and it still has to, and there's not really a lot of efforts put into those things. And then
Hmm.
you're in a greater culture where everyone speaks English. So then you just kind of do everything in English instead. And then I'm not even going to talk about Quebec because Quebec, some of the politicians have really weird views. They don't care what happens in the rest of Canada. They say if you want stuff in French, come to Quebec. I'm like, listen, I never lived in Quebec. My ancestors have not lived in Quebec in forever. My
Hmm.
ancestors have lived in Ontario before Canada had Confederation. Like, or
Right.
also I also have Acadian, so a lot of them were also kicked out of the country. It's like my French is not Quebec. It's like I have that mix. Like when I do my background, you have that Quebec line, and then you have the line that got chased out. I have both of that. The thing is, I've never lived in Quebec. My family has never lived in Quebec. So why do I have to go to Quebec to get French service when the whole country was formed on the idea that French and English would have services in both? So
Yeah.
country makes a
Yeah.
promise but doesn't keep it.
And Canada's very much a case of what will the neighbors think?
Yes,
That it's that old-fashioned sort of concern of what will other people think of us? What's our appearance?
yes,
How do people perceive us? It's a very superficial concern, actually. And
yes.
then the US, of course, has the arrogant level of, yeah, well, we're the best on the planet,
Mm,
which is clearly informed by people who haven't traveled.
mm,
That's the only thing you can
yeah,
possibly say about that. But pick a country and there's the systems that have been in place that have produced what we're looking at now.
right.
They were flawed then, it's more obvious now, and they're crumbling.
Yeah,
So, the division that these different countries and the systems they have, the division that they're sowing is something, how can you get away from it? How can you not do that? I mean, I am actively searching right now for ways to communicate with people to have community that is not on social media.
right.
I'm figuring this out. A friend of mine made a suggestion for a platform called School, Skool.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I get tons of
I'm
ads from them.
I am going to have a look and see if that's a good platform because it might be. Social media is so toxic now
Mm,
that it's very hard to navigate without being negatively affected.
right. Though, I kind of want to ask you this question.
Yeah,
I get ads after ads for school. If you do tarot reading, school wants
yeah,
you. If
yeah.
you do, school wants you. If you do this, school wants you. And it's like all psychic stuff, not all spiritual stuff.
Hmm.
And I'm like, do I want to do that? I don't know.
They do other things as
Yeah.
like that's your algorithm giving you
Yeah.
those advertisements
Mm-hmm.
because they also this friend of mine who's just joined school, she said that there's somebody making something like $10,000 a month teaching people how to do handstands. Like that's what they do
I
on
can
their
see that.
that's
Whereas,
what
like,
they do on
yeah,
their program,
yeah,
right?
I
So,
always figured it was bigger than that. It was
mhm.
just interesting to see, like, they're hitting all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a platform. They want content. So they want everything to be pulled in. And yeah, tarot reading, if you teach tarot reading or do whatever, it's like,
Well, they're
that'll bring
they're
in people.
setting it up as a place where you can build communities as well.
Right.
So I'm not advertising for school,
Mm,
and I haven't checked them out yet, but I'm just saying that because of the level of toxicity in
right.
social media, that it doesn't matter how hard you work on your algorithm to make it better. There's so much out there. And the thing is, you're rewarded for
Hmm.
controversial content.
Yes.
The more clicks you get for the fear-based stuff, the better it is. So pretty much social media's just got that to offer you right now.
And you know what? When I post this episode, I'm going to do a social media post and I'm going to post Michaela hates Canada. Listen to find out why.
Oh, you're going to get me into a world of trouble. Oh my God. I am going to be in so much trouble.
Notice how I didn't include, even though I said half of the stuff, I didn't include myself.
Oh my goodness. No, I don't hate Canada. I just have the vantage point of having lived there and not being
Yeah,
there right now.
and that's the thing, right?
So,
Like we
okay,
can
I
still
rate
like
Canucks.
something.
I rate Canucks. Can you please note that I'm saying at least the same amount of things about the US? Oh my God, you're going to get me
Yeah,
lynched.
and I'm going to post that picture I have.
No, you cannot do that. That is not okay.
And then we'll test. No, I wouldn't do that anyways. Um, I say
Bad
enough
man.
stuff as it is, but
No, you get me into trouble, but not with that picture.
the trouble is fine. Just that picture is not.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of the state of the magic, right? It's the don't buy into the facades. Don't let people dictate your path
Or distract you from
or
yours.
distract you from it. Yes.
That's the
That's
thing.
God, that happens.
Yeah, I mean, the subject of a recording I was doing this morning was Dark Moon Lilith,
Right.
and it's permission. Lilith brings permission,
Hmm.
and the permission is that which you grant yourself,
Mm.
right? So you have permission to do it your way and not to seek out from other people, how do I do this? Is this acceptable? Do I follow that path? Right? Can it look this way? Which, by the way, is something that would be harder to do in Canada, I think, because there's a lot of rules about that.
Yeah.
But literally, Dark Moon Lilith is all about understanding that you never did need somebody else's agreement or position or say so. You can choose your own path because that is actually the only one that's right for you.
Yes.
And whatever that looks like, you'll know because when you step into that stream of flow, it moves you along. I was going to leave it with it moves you, but it does.
Yeah.
You cannot be stationary when you step into that flow. You will feel the need to do things differently. And
Yes.
that's your permission. You give yourself permission. Nobody else needs to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
Daniel and I can both say, you have our permission to do these various things,
Yeah.
but it means jack, right? It doesn't
That's
mean a
right.
thing. You have
And
to
that's
trust yourself. Self-trust is huge here. And when
yes.
you're used to people second guessing you, oh, are you sure that's right?
Mm.
I think there's a better system here. Oh, are you sure I don't think that's the right way, etc., etc. Those questions of doubt drain you. Each
Yeah.
one takes a little bit of life force out of you, and especially if you listen to it and follow it. No, they will distract you to no, 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 don't do it that way. You need to go over here and do it this way. No, this is what works. It's like, for you, yeah, but is it your path?
Yeah.
Everything works for somebody somewhere,
Yes.
but
And it's
it's not
funny.
necessarily yours.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought that up. Uh, Today, I don't know why, but in a loop on my head, I was thinking about that whole, we had discussed about not asking questions because not because being curious is wrong, but because the questions can be you avoiding the work you have to do.
Mm. Well, questions have it depends on what's behind the question
Right.
and whether there's a point to it.
Hmm.
Are you asking something that will move you forward, or are you asking something that will keep you stationary or sideways?
Right.
And, an example would be when we use what if.
Mm.
What if is the most fantastic loop ever because there is no end to what if.
Yes.
And we typically use it in the negative spiral, right? Yeah, but what if this happens? What if that doesn't work? What if this
Yeah.
person says this thing? What if you throw a cinder block into the what if path and then turn around and if you must, what if, take it on the positive direction? What if it works? What
Yes.
if people love it? What if I love it? Because the
Yes.
closer you get to the center of you, the closer you are to the truth for yourself.
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
really matter if people love it. The question is, do you? Do you
Yes.
love it? Is it is it what you're here to do? And you'll know when you find the thing you're here to do. It just settles in like a, oh yeah, that was it.
Yep.
That's the thing. And off you go.
Yep. It's been described in many ways, right? It's like coming home. It's like, that place you never knew you needed to be. It's the thing you
It's
never
it's
you never looked
yeah,
for, but
there's
you found and went, wow.
it's like there's a knowing that just sort of
Yeah.
settles in of, oh, yeah, that was it. That's what I've been looking for. And it was here all along, which of course
Yep.
it was.
Usually, yes.
But I mean it's always there all along because it's you. But sometimes you have to go through a whole bunch of things in order to remember that, to get back to
Yes.
that. And that's fine. That's the path. That's how it works out, and that's what we do. But when you find it, don't be afraid.
Yes. Exactly. You know what? This sounds like an ending for this
Mhm.
episode. What did you just say again? I was
Love
going
you,
to
Canada.
recap.
Love
the
y'all.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, so the path. That's the key thing here, is finding the path. If you learn anything from this state of the magic address is, one, the path is, there's been so many things cleared for you, offered up. Like, it's, if you're not practicing magic, you're not practicing magic right now. It's going to be a thing.
And Daniel is washing his hands of you.
Yeah.
He's
I've done the
done.
magic. I've cleared the spaces. I've trudged through the jungle. I've done it all. I've climbed the mountain. I put the, what do you call it? The pitons, the pitons, whatever. Called pitons in French, anyways. Where you put the ropes and the loops for the rope, the
Uh-huh.
first person to climb.
I
It's all
think it's
done. Magic
I
is
don't
there.
think there's a different word in English. I think it's the same word.
Right? It's spelled the same, but in French, piton, I don't know if it's pronounced the same in English. Like, I'm looking at you, Chanel, which is caterpillar in French, chenille, but whatever. The
Aha.
material. Yeah. So anyway, thing is, if you don't feel compelled now, take a break. Because if you're not being compelled now, you're not doing magic now. That's it's the it can say unfortunate, or it could be this is your opportunity. You weren't ready. Take the time. Sit back.
If you could see Daniel's hand gestures, though,
Yeah,
I understand that he's over it.
that's
He's done
right.
his thing. He's given you his oomph.
Yeah. I already have a habit of talking with my hands a lot, but they're very vocal, my
That
hands
was
right now.
elevated. That
Yeah.
was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're not compelled, that's fine. Take a break, sit back, learn what you need to learn, listen to the stories you need to listen to, whatever it is you need to do, do it. And but for those of you compelled, oh my God, there's never going to be a better time. This is not the,
Uh-huh.
well, if I wait for later. No, no, no. If you wait for later, you're missing out. Now is the time.
That's that sideways thing, right?
Yeah.
Of being distracted and, oh, I'll do it when. I'll do it once I've done this next thing. I just have to. Nope. Nope. Nope.
Yep.
Now is good.
Now is the time. It's all set up. I'm taking a break for about a month, do some self care. It drained me. I didn't take care of things that need to be taken care of. So that's my March. And
Yep, yep.
yeah. So once again, I'm Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
Till next time.
À la prochaine.